So this is part 2 of our kombucha brewing. We will be trying to get the SCOBY out. As you can see, the SCOBY looks like it was sunk to the bottom. So we just got some of the extra film, but not the actual SCOBY. So I'm going to pour out all the liquid, and then we will be able to find the SCOBY at the bottom of the glass. So as you can see, the SCOBY was way at the bottom. So we're just going to keep that on the side and some of the leftover tea at the bottom for when we start a fresh batch of kombucha. So we will have a continuous brew. So I'm just going to keep these in the cabinet again till next week when I start a fresh brew. So these are the fruits that I'm going to be using for my second fermentation. It's mostly fresh fruits, and I do have a few frozen pieces, but you can definitely use fruit juices or fruit nectar, which is much easier than using fresh fruits. So I just grabbed a lot of the different varieties that I have in my fridge, and we'll just play around with this. So for the first time, I'm using these white neck bottles because it's easier to get the fruit out of it than the small narrow necks that I typically use. So this is my first time trying these bottles, so we'll see how that go. As you can see, I do use a lot of ginger as well. I have pickled ginger, fresh ginger, as well as ginger candy. So all my bottles have some sort of ginger in it, but here I'm just playing around with different flavors. Whatever comes to mind is what I'm adding in the bottles. So yeah, so we just make our flavors as we go and see what we like to add, and hopefully they will come out tasting good. But again, like I said, I add the ginger candy and in some cases fresh ginger in all of them because it just gives them another nice little flavor. So have fun with this process, and if you have kids, you can have them pick their own fruit that they would want in their second ferment. Kids usually love strawberries and pineapple, so just have fun with this and come up with different varieties that you think you will enjoy. Again, using fruit juices or fruit nectars is much easier because then you don't have a lot of straining to do after. I just prefer to use fresh fruits or frozen fruit because I just like the way they taste. I think it extracts a little bit more sugar, and I just love that instead of using the can liquid. So that's just my personal preference, but you can use whatever you like. Now, once you fill out your bottles with all the fruits that you will be using, again, you can add a little bit sugar or honey in some of them, but I think the natural sweetness from the fruit will be just enough, even though I will be adding some ginger syrup at the end, but I don't want to use any other sugar, so that's what I'm using to sweeten it up a little bit, so it will have a little kick of ginger as well as sweetener. So I can never get enough ginger, so that's why you see I use so many varieties of ginger in my drinks, and kombucha just tastes good with ginger. Once we fill everything up, we will go ahead and pour the tea and fill it all the way to the top. Well, we just need to leave some head space to allow the brewing process to do its thing so it doesn't explode in the cabinets. Now, this was my first time using this bottle, so I was a little bit hesitant about filling it all the way to the top, but in hindsight, I should have went all the way up a little bit higher. So I think I left way too much room in these, so next time I will fill it up a little bit more. So after I put all my tea in the pot, I will top it off with pineapple juice just to give it also that little extra fruity flavor, and it kind of balances a little bit of some of the fruits and vegetables that I'm using. So the pineapple juice always helps with that. So yes, these are almost ready to go. Now, mind you, this kombucha, before we adding the fruit, it was already good to go as a drink by itself. But a lot of people don't like just plain kombucha. They like it a little bit with some sort of a flavor. And that's why we're doing this next step. But again, it was already good to go. You could have drank it just by itself, just putting it in a refrigerator. But we wanted to go the next level. So this is what we got. So we're going to label these and also also put it in a cool space for about another few days, and we'll check it again and strain out all the fruits out of it, and then we will transfer it to the bottles that will be ready to go in the refrigerator. So again, this is the most tedious process of the kombucha making. The first step is easy, the last step is easy, but this middle part is the most time consuming part. And especially with mice, I like to use a variety of fruits, but it doesn't have to be this complicated. You can just use one flavor, and it wouldn't have to be this much work. I just like to do a lot of varieties. So it does take time to get it to all the different flavors that I'm trying to achieve here. But yes, again, it doesn't have to be this complicated. But this is it. So I'm going to store these again and check it in a few days. And once it's done, if it's the right flavor, then I will rebottle it and then refrigerate it, and it will be ready to go. So I make enough for maybe about 2 weeks worth of drinks. So stay tuned for the final step when we burp and bottle the kombucha.